Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 38 of my HO scale layout. It's going to be just a walk around update, and I'm going to show you what I've been working on. I do have a few trains running here on the CSX main, one going north, one going south, and I have this manifest train coming down from the third level, so heading southbound. In fact, let me just make sure that it's lined up all the way through, because I forgot to do the signals. So my CATS panel is working pretty well. I made a few changes here and there. Some things that I'd like to make better, but it's definitely functioning enough to run a good session. And I'm always working at it, but there's always going to be improvements made. But as of right now, it's pretty close to what I want to happen on the panel. All right, so let's start with the most recent stuff that I've been working on, because I've been doing a lot. Sorry about the mess. I've just been bouncing around a lot between scenery and track work and all kinds of stuff. So the most recent thing is this scene right here, which I'm really happy with how it's coming out. I got this backdrop from Train Junkies, I think it's called. And I've gotten it before. It's actually the backdrop that's on the other side of the room. But what's funny is once you alter it a little bit, it almost looks like a different background. So I'll show you the other one later. But this is very good because it gives a good sense of coverage here to kind of blend in the lower part of the scene with the trees. And once I get, I put some trees up here, which I'm really happy with how they're coming out. But I do want to add more pine type trees like these to kind of let, all this kind of pull into the scene. It's just harder to make. So I don't have any made right now, but I will add a few more here. I don't want to completely cover it with the trees. I want to, show a little bit of clear land here. But it's cool because not only does it do that, but then you have the mountains in the back that really pulls your eye back into the scene. So they come out really good. This is a little choppy right now. I'm going to just put a tree here or something just to kind of mask it. But I am happy with how it's coming out. This is obviously going to be water here. The retaining wall and the railings here came out pretty good. This little retaining wall and railings also came out pretty good in my opinion. And the ballast I finished as well. I might add a little something here. I'm not sure if I should put a little retaining wall behind the hill here, because I guess there would be, any kind of like rocks or anything that fall from there could hit the signal. So I don't know. I have to look at some Google images and see if there's anything similar to that. Copy. But I did get a lot of ground cover done up to here. Obviously I have to continue. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to transition from this backdrop into this scene here. I don't know that I'm going to keep this here. I mean, it looks good right now, but I might move it to a different place so I have more chance to kind of taper this a little bit and kind of connect it to the lower kind of landscaping kind of stuff. So nothing really happened here on the second level besides that. Everything is status quo. So let's talk about what I did over here. Oh, by the way, I did add the fascia over here. And the reason why it's like this is because I had an extension put in here. In fact, I made a video on this whole thing also. But this is going to be my new staging for the yard. So the reason I did this is because I needed more room to kind of store trains and not overwhelm the yard that I have here. So, and also the yard that I have back there. Everything was completely full before, and now I have, the railroad, I'm able to clear up the sidings and also the yard by putting trains here. So, you can get some pretty decent sized trains here. In fact, they're the average train that I run, the average long train that I run, which would be like 30 to 35 cars, depending on the car length. But it goes down. Obviously, it starts to to head down into the, lower staging, but it doesn't connect with lower staging. It actually hovers above it. So it's all this that's new. Continues down. And then I pulled it away from the other staging so that it doesn't hit the top of the cars on staging. So I was able to tuck it in here nicely. So I got 4 tracks and I extended it all the way to the wall. It's not ideal because it is on a sloped platform, so you can't just put rolling stock in there. You have to put actual trains, but that's the way staging kind of works. The trains are already in there with the locomotives to hold the cars. And then when I'm ready to pull one of the trains out, they come out through here. And the way they connect into the yard is through here to be able to pull through and out that way. Now, the other thing that I did, just because I felt like, all right, well, everything's going to be heading in the same direction, then I can't turn things around, is that I added a reverse loop. So here's the entrance point, right? So I added a reverse loop here that goes around through the inside of my bench work, and that's all level. You can see it there. It goes around, goes behind the backdrop here and spits out right there, and that allows me to do a reverse loop. So if I have a train going in this direction, which would be southbound, once it comes out here, it's going northbound and vice versa. If I want to back it in and shove and then head out that way. So it just, it allows me to run things without having to go all the way down to the lower staging or all the way up to the 3rd level before I can turn the train around. I could do it kind of like in the midway point if the dispatcher needs to. So that's going to help run things a little smoother. I know it's not like super prototypical, but that's not what I don't have the room to do the perfect A to B kind of thing, point A to point B. So this definitely helps. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is that it clears up the railroad pretty nicely, so I don't have everything all over the place. All right, next thing. So just continuing here. The reason why I brought the fascia all the way down here is because I want this to be, it's going to be another, you can see here, I already set it up, another line that goes out this way for a small industry that I'm going to put here. So it's going to actually sit here, and this will become the backdrop for that. Now, I don't want to do this yet because I want to be able to finish the scenery up there. It's going to get uncomfortable if I have to reach over from this point. It's much easier to reach over from here, obviously. So I can get, I'm going to make a mountain over the helix, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to do here, maybe a highway or something. So that's what's happening there. Let me see if I have anything else for the yard. The only thing I added was signals at the exit point. Well, it's not really the exit point, but it's on the main. I didn't have that signal up yet, so this was kind of temporary, dark territory. So now everything's working for that, but I am going to add a signal right around here somewhere to, connect into the mains. I know it's hard to see, but like right around there, and that'll, connect into the 2 mains. And that signal obviously will be CTC with permission from the yard master. Same thing on this side, except this side is a little different because I was able to stick one of these triple bridges. These are the typical Atlas BLMA, bridges. It's actually this exact bridge, but I modified it. I cut I guess I cut this side off and I flipped it around and was able to bring the wires from the far lights, which would typically go down the other leg, and rerun them this way. Now, I'm not super happy with this because, the lights on this side are supposed to control exiting trains. I tried to kind of put it all in one thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these heads out and just leave the bridge with the mainline heads, and then that signal won't be there. It'll be a dwarf here and a dwarf there. So if you're coming out of this line, which is the arrival departure, into the main, you'd get that signal, obviously. And if you're coming from here, you get this signal. and that'll be more easy to understand and prototypical, I guess, too. But more importantly, more easy for any operators to see. So I'll change that soon. Moving on, we have over here, the fascia is new. This tunnel scene is new. I spoke about that briefly here and there, but this is looking nice. I know it's a square tunnel, but that's all I had room for. I didn't have time to I didn't have room to curve it without hitting the tops of the auto racks and the container well cars. So this is what I went with, and good enough for me. But I did make it look nice and rough, so it looks like a tunnel. I got to do a little bit of scenery work here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably just rocks and dirt and stuff, like the inside of the tunnel. But I like the window. You can see the trains coming up. I think I already spoke about this, but I did move the turnout to this point here. This used to be back there. I moved it up because either way, the original plan was to keep this really narrow, but now everything's out here, so I might as well make the turnout visible with signaling, which is also new. That's all working. So that's and I did the ballast work and all the ballast work in there as well. So this wall and this tunnel portal are also kind of new. But more recently, I did this wall here, another retaining wall. It's kind of the same as that one over there, slightly different, but same concept. That came out pretty good. Here I made this kind of pitched retaining wall. I only did that because when I put the foam in there, it kind of made that shape naturally, and I was like, oh, maybe the story is that this retaining wall used to be straight and it kind of like collapsed here, and that's why they put this newer retaining wall here. So I just left it like that. I'm going to try to make this really old looking with like weeds and stuff, and then make this one like kind of like the newer one. So I made this entire retaining wall here, like the way that came out too. I also made some fencing and barriers, which I think look pretty good. And I didn't like the HO scale fencing that I've been getting is like the 6 foot etched fencing, but it looks really big here. So I didn't want to make it so high. So I had some end scale stuff left over, these fences, and I like the way that looked. I think it's the appropriate height. So I ordered a bunch more, and that's how I did this. Obviously I have to finish this. So I'm working on it right now. I got the fences painted, but I do have some work to do with the barriers. I got more of them. I haven't weathered them yet, but they are sitting here waiting. So we'll get those up and running. The intermodal yard is looking pretty done. I did add this extra road patch here that I wasn't sure what I'm going to do with, but now I'm just going to paint this same black over here. Obviously weather it the same way I did that, and it'll be just a connecting turnaround for the trucks, and then eventually this will connect here and also there. So this will be the entrance point, this will be the exit point, and I've been talking about making this road kind of continue on and go over, so I'll probably do that in the future. And then what else is in this area? I think that's pretty much it for this area. Moving on to this side, nothing really happening here that I can think of. Yeah, I've been kind of focusing on the other side of the railroad for right now. But here's the backdrop. This is the same exact backdrop as the other side. It's far enough detached from the other side where, like, if you're running trains, you'll probably, unless you know about it, you'll probably forget that it's the same thing. But the difference here is that, there's a lot more height to this scene. So once I cut out the sky here, it'll look like a different thing because the blue kind of lightens everything up from the sky. Sorry about the lighting. So yeah, I didn't mind getting the same one. I really like it. And there's not a lot of backdrops out there that work. This one seems to work for a lot of situations for some reason. So that's what I was looking for, and I like it, so we're gonna go with that. I did put a little camera here. It's hiding right in here for this lead, because this lead you can't see from the yard on the other side. So I figured I would put a little camera here with a monitor on the other side, and this way the yard master or whoever is operating their locomotives can see the end point there. Obviously, I'll dress it up and make it look nicer, but I want to, just make sure that I have something in place so that it's visible. So here it is right here. This is actually a cheap rear view camera, like the reversing camera or whatever they call it. I paid $17 for this little monitor, and the camera was like another $20 or whatever. Super cheap. It had the guidelines, like for reversing, those things you get to make sure you're going straight. But it was a simple cut of a wire on the camera. It gets rid of those. So, I'm going to do that there. And I may do a few more of these over here, so you can see the end of each one of these tracks. So I'll probably mount them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, so you can see each individual one. They're so cheap that why not? So that's all that's happening with that. Obviously, the wiring is still in progress here with all this new trackage. I have, all the frogs kind of going through that right now. I got to clean all that up. And I have a reverser over here for the loop. But that's a work in progress, obviously. I did have to get a triple turnout here to allow me to still keep these two tracks and bring this in here. This is the glue that's being dry right now. I'm waiting for that because I have to cut gaps right here. And by the way, I've been using this technique. I don't know if anybody's interested in it, but I used to, when I glued track in the past, I used to pick up the whole track and try to get under it with the glue, and then I'd kink up the track because I'd be pushing into it by mistake, and I had to get the glue nice and flat, and the typical way of gluing. But what I've been doing lately, and it seems to be working beautifully, is that I put the track literally on top. You can see here. I just take the glue and I just go here, and I just put it right on top of the track. I've been using this glue, and it is aggressive. It's a pretty strong glue. But what I do after that is I hit it with alcohol. I just have a spray bottle and any typical rubbing alcohol will do. And what the alcohol does, it pulls the glue down into the ties. This is still kind of wet, so you can see that it's there. But let me show you. This is a finished product right here. So you can see that. You can see the mark, but it's not. You see how it disappears? But it still grabs the track, right? So it kind of gets under and around and the ties and all that stuff, and it's pretty solid. It's a lot easier than having to pick up the track and the rail joiners, and you got to make sure you have enough room to pull the rail joiners in, because when you put them back in, you have to slide them. It's just, there's so many things that I ran into when I was originally gluing my track, and now it's so much easier. So if anybody's interested in that technique, what I do is I put extra glue where I'm going to cut the gaps, just so that the track never falls out of place with the expansion contraction of the wood. So here's kind of a finished product of gaps. So again, the glue's there, you can see it, but it's out of the way. It gives you enough room to still put ballast in there, and this thing is not going anywhere. It's on there. And the reason why I have screws is because I put screws in just to temporarily hold it until I'm done gluing, and then I just pull them out. It's a piece of cake. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got for this layout update. So I'm gonna let it go. I can't wait to finish this with the water effects and everything, and go from there. All right, so this will be the end of number 38, and I'll see you at 39. Thanks for watching.